The Fletch Cast. It's genetics.
Club members, welcome Fletch Cast to the Fletch Cast. It's good to have you guys back. I've been thinking about you a lot, and every time I say that, I feel like we're dating or I'm trying to date you. You know, you're like, I've been thinking about you. I have really been thinking about you guys. As you'll see, it's not all positive, though. I mean, I guess it's positive. I have one thing we're going to talk about today is kind of back to this topic that we've talked about before, and that was me pointing out how the media allows young, multicultural, successful women to be attacked, and that's happened again, and it's getting worse. And I thought it was really important that we start talking about, again, we have to keep coming back to this point. And to help explain that some, I think I need to say a little bit more about why I think multiculturalism is so important. I am multicultural. I'm interracial. I was raised by parents who just were adamant that if you're multicultural, that's a great thing. It's a positive thing. But more importantly, it's who you are. When you're multicultural, that means you are both interracial / multicultural. But in my case, it means you're also African American. It also means you're Caucasian. It gives you these three communities to draw identity from. But the main identity is being multicultural. It has been an amazing strength for me my whole life to know how broad my community is, to know that I have this multiplicity of ethnicities. It's been amazing. My parents raised me to know that it's amazing. It has been my anchor. It has been so gratifying to be a part of this community. When I see little interracial kids, little Happas, little all types of multicultural kids, I just smile because that's who I am. That's who we are. It is a unique gift that we've been given. I want people to share that. I want us as multicultural people to know that, man, this is a big deal. It's special. It means something. We have to have pride in who we are. I also know multicultural people who are at a loss. They can't grasp their multicultural ethnicity. They want to be black, or they want to be white, or they want to be Asian, and they are lost. They're lost because what they're being forced to ostensibly do is to pick a side. Do you love your mom or your father? Do you love your grandparents? Do you love your grandmother? They are being forced to not be part of their community. We are who we are. It's like being Jewish. You can't, I'm not Jewish, but if you were bat mitzvah Jewish, or if you went, if you are Jewish, you can't stop being Jewish, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. I'm another example. I'm Catholic, but and even though I don't practice Catholicism anymore because of the horrible pedophilia, I'm still Catholic. You have to have an understanding of who you are and where you belong. It's like we talked about last week with the proper naming of things. Confucius was adamant. You have to know what you're talking about, who you're talking about. You have to properly name things. And what's happened to many multicultural people is that they've never been properly named. We've never had the proper naming of things. They've been neglected in the sense of their parents didn't say, hey, you are who you are. You're not black, you're not white, you're not, and yet you are all of those things. But when it's all said and done, the final product is a multicultural person. That is who you are. That is your community. Our community is broad. It is significant. One of the greatest things about who we are is that multiculturalism takes race and ethnicity, and we use it as a uniting force, as a force of strength, as a force that gives us meaning. It also sets us in conflict with people who want to use race as a way to separate people, a way to hate people. I got the most text ever when I was talking about Caucasians liking Donald Trump not being racist. It was amazing how many people wrote me and said, yes, it does. Well, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And we don't want to go down that path. Our point is to use who we are and use this existence for good, based upon the fact that we get to see things differently. You just do. It is impossible for you to be multicultural. Say you're half Asian and half Latino, for you to look at a child who is Asian or Latino and feel animosity toward that child because it's your child. Multiculturalism produces what we are and who we are. And that's why I'm so adamant about us not only accepting this, but using it as an amazing gift to go and do really cool stuff. And so that's why we're back on this topic about the media and how the media treats people who are multicultural. But before we get there, I want to talk about, there is a club member, Graham Hancock. Graham Hancock writes some of the most amazing articles, books, primarily books about evolution, about archaeology. And he says over and over again, just points out over and over again, that some of the most advanced cultures in this world, they didn't start in Europe. In fact, Europe was the last to the game. Graham Hancock has a book, it's called America Before, and it is incredible how he walks people through how the native Brazilians, native South Americans and Central Americans were there for hundreds and thousands of years before Europeans. And one thing he talks about, and this stood out in my mind, he said that because of the people who came after these great cultures, because they destroyed those cultures, because they destroyed the memory of those cultures were lost. So you have this entire amazing existence of societies doing amazing things thousands of years before Europeans, and they've been lost because people allowed those cultures to be destroyed. I'm not being dramatic when I say to you that when we sit back and allow multiculturalism to be attacked, when we allow young, successful, multicultural women to be attacked, when we allow this to go on, we are doing exactly what happened to the Amazonians. We're doing exactly what has happened across the world, where you have people who have real cultures, real things to say, and they're taken from them because people didn't do anything. And I'm a big fan of, I'm not a big believer in blaming people, simply unless it's productive, and I mean that constructively. But I am, and in fact, one of my sayings is, when something goes wrong in my life, I like to say, you know whose fault that is? It's my fault. Because if it's my fault, I can fix it. If it's my fault, then the responsibility for that being fixed is on me. So in that vein, I want to point this out that, again, we've gone over and over these attacks on multicultural, successful young women. And again, I want to point out that, yes, it's happening, but we are the ones continuing to allow it to happen. And it's gotten worse. I mean, this is our 9th episode, and this is the 3rd time we've covered this topic. The first time we did, one of the first shows we did was on the George Floyd anti-police violence protest, which was amazing. And the reason it was so amazing and so successful was it was multiculturally based. It wasn't African Americans or Asians. It was all of us with a significant African American component, but it was a significant component by lots of people. It's one of the reasons I did this show. The other reason I did this show, and they're kind of polar opposites, was the Kylie Jenner, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion WAP video, where I'm watching this. I can't even say I was watching it, but I'm reading about Kylie Jenner being trashed because people are demanding she be taken off this video because she's not Black enough, whatever that means. And at that time, I pointed out, I said, Kylie Jenner has a multicultural daughter. She is part of the multicultural community, and this is offensive. I said, it's offensive. I pointed out the 50,000 signatures on trying to get her taken off. People actively saying take her off because of her ethnicity. We have to stop it. We talked about Kim Kardashian. And again, I guess I come back to the Kardashians because frankly, they're attacked more than anyone. And I've yet to find a legitimate basis to attack them. Kim Kardashian, we talked about it. She was being attacked because she wore, because she was drinking during law school with her friends. And then she was attacked for going to the White House and asking and helping Donald Trump to free multiple women of color who were wrongly incarcerated. Been there for 100, one was for life. Then there's a Latina sister who had been there for 20 years, hadn't seen her child. When she left, the child was 6 months old. Kim Kardashian was attacked for that. And I pointed it out. I said, no one else would be treated this way. Kim Kardashian has freed more people from prison than the NAACP has in 5 years. Kim Kardashian. So you can say what you want about her, but if we look at the facts, if we look at what she's doing amazing shit. She's freeing people from prison. And what does she get in return? She gets belittled and attacked by the media. And again, it's not, in my opinion, it's not just happenstance that it happens. It is, again, a young, successful, multicultural woman who has 4 multicultural children. She was also attacked for wearing braids, this idea that you can't wear braids. It goes on and on. Halsey was attacked because she took her African-American father to a red carpet show. And she was attacked because she said, I don't feel that I'm positioned in a place that I can speak authoritatively on police violence directed against people based upon race because I'm not dark. My skin tone isn't dark enough. I don't experience it. So, but what she said is that it's bad, it's wrong. And then she's attacked because she takes her father to a show and they're somehow trying to correlate that with apparently trying to show she's multicultural. Again, young, successful, multicultural woman being attacked. Bhad Bhabie. Bhad Bhabie is... The Bhad Bhabie one drives me crazy because she really, if you look at her story, she's really kind of a tough kid. She's come through difficult circumstances. Difficult. She's being attacked because they said that she was being too ethnic. Of course, she's Jewish, and she was again wearing braids, and they were saying that she can't wear braids, and it's just funny to me because Jewish people have worn braids for a long time, thousands of years. But again, it was this attack on her because, in my opinion, because it was free. You can attack multicultural people, it's free, especially if they're young women. It's disheartening and it's really fucked up. And I talked about it then. Then there was Mullato, who I love. I mean, I'm not crazy about her music, but she was attacked because she literally identified herself as biracial and interracial. Media attacked her for saying, I'm interracial and biracial. Media attacked her for not saying she's quote unquote black, which again, I don't know what that means. It is targeting young people of color, almost exclusively multicultural, successful women, because the media and frankly, again, a coalition of African-American women and Caucasian women attacking people of color. It's a strange coalition, you would have to admit. But apparently there is now this color police out there, and that color police is comprised largely of African-American females and Caucasian liberals, or hyper-liberals, I guess. It's disturbing. It's disturbing. The worst part of this is this week, and it's the worst, it's the most extreme, and it's a perfect example of what I've been telling you guys. This shit has to happen. Here we go again. DaniLeigh is a Dominican, Dominican. What am I trying to say here, Mark? She's Dominican. Ethnicity. She's Dominican ethnicity. She is, her parents are Dominican, and this woman is being crushed in the media. And it's not, the part of the problem we had with Mullato and some of the other people we talked about, it wasn't mainstream media. DaniLeigh is being attacked in Glamour Magazine, a national worldwide brand, is attacking, or at least giving voice to, attacks against DaniLeigh because she did a song called Yellow Bone, and they claim it's colorism. And in this attack against her, they talk about how dare you talk about who you are and what you look like. And they introduce this concept of colorism. Now wait for it. Colorism is this new form of discrimination that apparently, if you're not dark skinned, and unless you're dark skinned, you can't talk about yourself. You can't talk about what you look like. You can't talk about what your parents look like. You can't talk about yourself being light skinned or yellow or whatever other phraseology they want to use. It is the most offensive, racist concept. It's like phrenology, where they used to fill your head and there'd be bumps and they'd say you're this. This colorism is the modern day equivalent of the Jim Crow one drop of blood thing. What we have happening today, and again, this is in Glamour Magazine. What's that chick's? What's her name?
DaniLeigh?
Yeah, no, the writer who did the piece. I marked this down. What is her name? It's just shocking. Arielle Gray, a writer for Glamour Magazine, is talking about the singer wearing a fresh side. This is Arielle Gray. Again, tell me if you think she's playing to any racial stereotypes. Quote, the singer wearing a fresh set of box braids addressed the criticism that colorism and anti-blackness are at the core of her new song. This is Glamour Magazine. They got a writer, Arielle Gray, attacking this woman in part because she's wearing a fresh set of box braids. Because again, only certain types of African Americans, I guess, can wear box braids and engaged in colorism, and it's anti-blackness. In this article, they also talk about, you know what, that her parents, DaniLeigh's parents, are light-skinned Dominicans. And so these light-skinned Dominicans, as you know, they don't like black people. Glamour fucking Magazine does this piece, and it is appalling. It is appalling. It is race baiting at its worst. It is as ugly as you get. And it goes directly to the heart of multiculturalism. If you cannot if colorism, as promoted by Glamour Magazine, if you cannot write a song about what you look like, or if you are quote unquote light skinned, which it's one of the nuttiest, it's literally a phrase from Reconstruction. And Arielle Gray has played every racist trope, relied on every racist trope there was to attack DaniLeigh, whose parents are light-skinned Dominicans. The idea that Glamour Magazine would pay credence to this. I mean, you want to do a piece if it said Asians could only look a certain way. You want it, unless your eyes are not epicentric or not. I mean, it's ugly. Colorism, as Arielle Gray describes it, apparently put into place would prevent every multicultural child from ever writing a song. You can't write a song if you're multicultural, because guess what? If you're of mixed ethnic heritage, you're not going to be dark-skinned or dark-skinned enough. Think about that. If you are multicultural, you can't write a song about being multicultural. You can't apparently write a book about being multicultural. If you want to talk about, and what they talk about her as it's being yellow boned, is they're saying she's just flaunting her color. I can tell you this as a multicultural parent. I look at my children's beautiful color and I think it's fabulous. I think it's amazing. I look at multicultural kids, whether if it's Asian and African American, Latino, and multicultural children have a different complexion than African Americans. I know this is crazy. Multicultural children have a different complexion than Caucasians. This magazine and this writer are ostensibly saying multicultural people, we can't write about ourselves, we can't talk about ourselves, we can't do pictures of ourselves, or it's colorism. Colorism being this condition within the African American community, frankly, in which certain people are treated differently. This is what this person and Glamour Magazine is allowing. It's just a blatant racist attack against multiculturalism. If one of your parents is African American and one of your parents is Asian, your skin tone is not going to be dark. And so based upon what Glamour Magazine says, you can't do it. You can't do that because that's colorism. Colorism, frankly, what Glamour Magazine should do, they should do a piece on why it is that Glamour Magazine doesn't have African Americans in their boardrooms. They should do a piece on why is it that African Americans in media are not more successful in the sense of moving up the hiring chain. But the last thing Glamour Magazine should do is to attack multicultural people because they think we can't talk about who we are. I mean, it's fucking insane. We can't talk about how different we are. The greatest strength that we as multicultural people have is our differences. It's the fact that I can look over and see my father who's dark-skinned, and I can see my mother who's not dark-skinned, and I can see my children who are in the middle and say, I love that diversity. That racial diversity is what gives us strength. And Glamour Magazine and this nutty writer are out there tagging DaniLeigh because she writes about how she looks. It's not up to you people to decide what multicultural people can write about. You're not us. You can't be us. And I'm sorry if apparently it bothers you. That's what's so crazy is colorism is ostensibly African Americans being bothered by other African Americans' skin tone. If one of the reasons I started this podcast was to say this, is we as multicultural people cannot go down that path that has frankly crippled the African American community. This use of race to distinguish yourself or differentiate yourself in the African American community is destroying the African American community. And what's worse or what's sad at some other level is what Glamour has done is they've taken a black writer, an African American writer, I'm assuming.
Yeah, she's Jamaican.
Oh, good. There you go. She's clearly dark enough then, right? So you have to be Jamaican dark to be able to write a story about anything. They've taken this writer and they've said to her, go attack people of color based upon race. It is the oldest, dumbest ploy ever. And yet Glamour Magazine and the Jamaican sister, who I guess is willing to trash people of color for money, they're happy to do that. They are taking African Americans and saying, hey, go be mad at these other people who are more like you than we're the same. We're from the same community. And what they're doing, though, is using our ethnicity and using that against us, but having African American people attack us based on our ethnicity. It is ugly, it is tactless, and it is fundamentally racist. And yet they get away with it. It can't be. It can't be. These people can't be allowed to do this. They wouldn't do it to any other group. I guess I've killed that enough, haven't I?
I think
Did I make that clear? Did I make that clear? It's fucked up. It's just fucked up. The idea, and by the way, Glamour Magazine, they're happy to have, I assure you, they've had multiple multicultural people on their cover, and they're not shitting on multicultural people then. It's when they get a chance, I'll say it again, conservatives worry me, white liberals scare the living shit out of me. It's when Glamour Magazine gets a chance to put a multicultural person on the cover and it's good for them, they do it. But then they're going to listen to some just extreme side of the racial world and give them an entire story on colorism like it's something real. Colorism. They're literally giving credence to a nutty idea that at best is a fringe theory about what color is acceptable to African American people. Say it that way then. Say I speak for all African Americans and I think colorism is this. Because you don't speak for African Americans. It's using these small racial differences to divide, and it's appalling. And Glamour Magazine should be, it's not glamorous. But here's the other part of this, and this is the part that I'm going to always come back to. This is our fault. It is our fault. Let me say this again. The idea that any media outlet would believe that they could print this type of trash that is literally, if colorism by definition would preclude any multicultural person, any child, any grandchild from ever writing a story about themselves, from ever saying to their children, I think you are beautiful, from ever talking about the wonderfulness of our diversity. As Glamour Magazine sees it, that's colorism and you can't do it. They're literally attacking who we are. It's our fault. And let me just say this again. Let me just go through the list. It's color. Oh, here's the noun for colorism. Oh, I guess it's a noun. Prejudice or discrimination against individuals with dark skin tone, typically among people of the same ethnic or racial group. Colorism within the Black community has been a serious emotional and psychological battle. I don't even want to go on beyond that, but it's this idea. This is, by the way, my African-American brothers, and I consider myself one, it's that type of paternalistic nonsense that cripples this community, cripples the African-American community. It's paternalistic, it's sad, and it's pathetic. And yet, members of the African-American community are being coaxed into using it to attack multicultural people. I ask you, if not having dark skin tone is what qualifies you as participating in colorism, doesn't that necessarily disqualify every multicultural person in the world? In the world. It is our fault. And I'm going to say this again. I want to promote multicultural people, but I also want to call it for what it is. Fucking Kris Jenner is, this is my third time attacking her. She is one of the most powerful people in Hollywood, in the world. You have 6, 7 beautiful multicultural children, grandchildren. Your daughters, 3 of the 4 are in multicultural relationships. Why would you allow this to happen? This is fucked up. They're targeting your kids. Say something. Say something. You are one of the most powerful people in Hollywood. If your children were Caucasian, you'd be the most powerful mother in the history of the world because what you've done is amazing. But you haven't said a fucking word about this bitter and ugly racism directed against multicultural people. Say something. What are you waiting for? Bill Burr, my favorite comic in the world, Bill Burr. You have to say something. You have to say this is wrong. Melody. I'm sorry, Melody. I read this. She's a former DreamWorks executive. She's married to George Lucas. It's a multicultural relationship. She's a power broker. in the boardroom. She's a DreamWorks executive. Say something. I mean, it's Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg, you have multicultural child. You have a multicultural child. Say something. I mean, here, let me put it this way. Aside from the fact that you are multicultural and you have multicultural children, the most important thing is that you are a parent or a grandparent of multicultural kids. These people are putting forward this premise that your children can be attacked. Your children can be disqualified because of how they look. Colorism, by definition, precludes multicultural people from talking about being multicultural. And what pisses me off the most is, and I don't mean to preach, but I'm going to, is the number of multicultural parents and grandparents who are Jewish. It's stunning. You can't be Jewish and not be cognizant of the power and the ugliness of discrimination. You cannot be that. You can't be Jewish and say, you know what, I think discrimination is kind of okay. You know better. The number of African Americans who know better about racial discrimination, and you have multicultural children and you're not saying a fucking thing. These people have created a premise and whole other ism that's directed solely and exclusively against your children, your grandchildren. It can't be. God, Asian, the number of multicultural families that are Asian, I mean, it's stunning. We are the fastest growing segment in America today. Asian Americans, they had in 1943, they had Japanese internment camps where they're taking Asian Americans and putting them into soon, I mean, they didn't get as bad as extermination camps, but they were precursors. Japanese Americans, that's 50 fucking years ago, 60 years ago, I can't do math, sticking Asian Americans into internment camps. If you are Asian and you are part Asian and if you have involvement in a multicultural family, you know better. Latinos, listen, they were sticking Latino children into fucking cages 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they were taking children from their parents, babies from their parents 2 years ago. There are 530 of these children who have been stripped from their parents based solely upon their ethnicity. If you are Latino and you are involved in a multicultural relationship, you know what that means. You know the risk associated with it. You have an obligation to do something. I mean, it's incredible. This is in America today. And Glamour Magazine is doing a piece talking about people of color who can't participate if they are multicultural. It's fucked up. Glamour Magazine should be ashamed of it. It is race baiting at its worst. It is, let me put this into context because everyone writing me shitty things about me saying Caucasians who are for Donald Trump aren't all racist. In fact, probably most of them aren't even racist. It's just absurd. You people who have been talking that shit, well, go call Glamour Magazine because that's racist. That's racist. And they're directing it toward multicultural people. They're doing it to gain attention, and it's dangerous. It's stunning. It is stunning. It's Jim Crowism. It's everything wrong with this country, and we need to do something. If we don't do anything, it's going to continue. Mullato, they made her apologize for saying she's multicultural. Bhad Bhabie, they attacked her for wearing braids and she's not African American even though she's Jewish. Where does it stop? It's not going to stop. This is episode number 9, and now we have a nationally prominent magazine reprinting a theory of racism that necessarily excludes every single person of multicultural heritage, of multicultural background, every single one. I don't think that's progress. I don't know. Thank you guys. Next week, I promise, next week we're going to do something funny. I've been telling multicultural brother Mark, I guess that's colorism, that we're going to actually do a fun segment because we have a bunch of comics. We're going to do that. That's coming. This has been a Mark Samuel Media production in accordance with, or along with, not in accordance with, that's like a legal term, along with the Laugh Bureau. Again, 2 club member organizations. They're great. Look them up. Thank you very much. Bye.
The Fletch Cast. It's genetics.